Sup guys, I'm gonna dissect the new Yorktown meta fight real quick, if you don't mind. The theme of this fight is summons. Looking at the boss's skills, we can see that she starts with a massive 60% damage reduction, and then for every unit that's alive, she takes extra damage. I heard that only allied units with HP bars work, so summons like Nanas or the drone auxiliary won't count, as they don't have HP bars. Instead of doing calculations, I think it's easier to see the effect if I just go do a battle without the summons and then one with. So here's a pretty typical fleet that, under normal circumstances, would disintegrate any medium armor boss, but it is struggling to chew through the boss here, leaving about 20 bars of HP. Then, replacing the usual best-in-slot vanguards with some random vanguards that summon a bunch of shit, while keeping the main fleet the exact same, the boss is finished without much issue. Although, this isn't the best iteration that you can possibly run. First, I'm going to go through all the options I've tried for summoning, as well as their strengths and weaknesses, and then show you guys some of the full fleet setups that I had success with. First up is Kursk. She summons 2 submarines every 15 seconds that count as allies, and for some reason, it's bugged, so even after they retreat, they're still counted for the damage taken increase, meaning Kursk by herself can max out the 12 stacks as the battle progresses after 45 seconds. I think they're missing a line in the code where they're supposed to die after they expire. It might be unintended though, so I'll make a post about it if it does get fixed, in which case she'll just contribute 2 to the count. Even though she's made of paper and doesn't do much damage compared to the generally strong ships, she is able to last 45 seconds as long as you don't put her as the tank, at which point her job is pretty much done. In that sense, I would say that she has no real weaknesses for this fight, and it certainly helps that she's not a collab exclusive as well. Next up is Kurumi from the recent Data Life collaboration. She continuously spawns clones throughout the fight, incrementing the counter, and she's also at no risk of dying. If you use her as the main tank though, she's going to have to sacrifice some clones to stay alive, which reduces her damage contribution, so it's best to not use her as the tank even though she can do it. Her clones last until they die from taking damage, so you don't have to worry about timing or anything when you're using her. As for her weaknesses, she's kinda new, so I wouldn't expect a lot of players to have her maxed out, as there are more important ships to raise. Not to mention she is a collab ship. Next up is Laffy 2, who summons 2 strikers every 20 seconds and can tank the fight quite easily. Her main shortcoming is that the 20-second interval doesn't really work well with 4-strike setups, which are essentially all of the battleship ones, as they tend to fire before the 20-second mark to squeeze in 4 attacks. She works perfectly fine with 3-strike setups, which should be most of the carrier ones, and for those, her anti-air as well as the enemy AA reduction debuffs both contribute even past the clones, so I think she's the best option for adding summons to carrier fleets. The last ship I've tried so far is Momo from the To Love Ru collaboration. She also spawns allies at 20-second intervals, same as Laffy, so the same caveats apply for 3 strikes versus 4-strike compositions. Aside from her summons, both her damage and survivability are fine. She's been around for a bit longer than Kurumi, but she is a collab ship, so I don't expect everyone to have raised her. There are other ships that summon units, like some of the SSS collab ones that summon a big mech, but I haven't gotten around to trying them. To be honest, if you just have Kursk, not even necessarily at 120, but just leveled enough to survive 45 seconds consistently, it should be enough. But adding Laffy on top will help with the damage, so you don't really need any collaboration units. Again, Kursk might get bug fixed, so do take that into consideration before you level her just for this. Now, here are some of the fleets that I found success with. Running the same Soyuz, Nakhimov, and Fritz roommate fleet that I showed before, now with Laffy and Momo increasing the ally count, and Trafalgar, who is unsurprisingly the best option to increase damage outside of summons, due to both consistency and raw output, the fleet ends up overkilling on the 3rd round of airstrikes. Here, Soyuz was a little too fast for the carriers, so I reduced Battleship Fleet Tech reload to 0 in order to sync up their attacks, but you can also not touch Fleet Tech and just give the carriers beacons, which should work just as well, since it's overkilling by quite a bit. As usual, these cooldown adjustments are according to my equipment and fleet tech, so instead of copying my exact numbers, you need to make sure that your cooldowns are close together based on the equipment and fleet tech that you have. I had some concerns about using carriers leading up to tier 15, about concealment, seeing how Yorktown sends a lot of planes at you, but they seem to be very easy to shoot down with just the Vanguard. This fleet is great if you have everything, since it should be able to consistently end the battle on the third strike, with Nahimov's route ensuring that everything lands, and you don't really need reload fleet tech either. However, if you don't have all these LA9s or maxed out aviation fleet tech, then you might be consistently short on damage because the results should be consistent across runs. If you don't have enough damage, you can instead try 4 salvo battleship fleets, but for this, you'll want as much battleship reload tech as possible, and having a Mecklenburg gun or 2 will also help. The first configuration I tried was Bismarck, Mecklenburg, and Lion. You do want some kind of movement impairment for this fight, since she moves around quite a bit, so Bismarck is good for that. On top of every other salvo of hers summoning an ally for damage increase, but treat that as a cherry on top. By the last round of salvos, the boss had 9 bars of HP left, so that's a decent amount of overkill. Then, I tried replacing Bismarck and Mecklenburg with Vanguard and Soyuz, which worked just as well, bringing the boss down to 6 bars remaining this time, before the last round of salvos. I think that the slow from Soyuz is more helpful than Bismarck's Black Hole, which has a lot to do with it, but it's just a sample size of one, so I'm not going to make claims about which one is strictly better. They both seem to overkill enough to do the job. At this point, we're back to the HMS core of Lion, Trafalgar, and Vanguard once again, so I thought, why not give Centaur and Warspite a try? And sure enough, both worked well enough, but definitely not overkill like the previous 2 fleets, with the main problem being replacing the ships that were bringing the movement impairment with basic damage dealers. While Centaur does have a slow on her barrage, its travel time is slower than that of her rockets, so she can't set up her own rockets with her own slow, which is why I ended up bringing Eldritch to support her. Anyway, I think that's pretty much it for this fight. I'll probably try more different fleets and then update my seasonal tier list, but there's a new event dropping tomorrow, and some backed up videos I have to make before then. Hope you found this helpful. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next one.